Very warm welcome to Coventry University, and thank you very much for taking part in this collaboration between the Chartered Management Institute and the university for the benefit of all our postgraduate students. Could we start just by asking you to just tell us a bit about who you are, what you do, what the company is that you represent, and just fill us in about what the company does and perhaps who its customers are and those sort of details?
Sure, yeah. If I talk first about the company, then I can explain a little bit more about my role. So I work for a company called the Paragon Group. We're a FTSE 250 company, but a lot of people haven't really heard of us because we operate in quite a specialist field. So we've got three core business lines. We're a buy-to-let mortgage lender, so mainly focusing on large landlords who've got large portfolios of property, who do a lot of renting in the student sector, actually, interestingly enough. We've also got a section where we service loans on behalf of third parties, so that will be where we've got banks and building societies who want to sell their loan books because they're not making money of them, and we actually are able to service those quite well. So that's almost like a call centre operation there. And then our third and more recent business arm is the Paragon Bank. So a couple of years ago we went through an application to become a bank, and again offering specialist lending where the mainstream banks aren't servicing. So we're classed as one of those challenger banks that we're hearing a lot about in the news, that are looking for the business that the main banks aren't keen to operate in.
Which is
a lot of the lending that we do complements our other parts of the business. So, for example, we've got who are looking to develop properties. Some of those may happen to be our customers on the buy-to-let lending side. So quite a busy business. We're growing rapidly, and things are looking really good for the business. My role at Paragon, I work in the HR function, and I'm head of the learning and development team. So that encompasses making sure that everyone has the right skills to conduct their roles professionally and well. So we have an operational training team that induct a lot of our new starters, and we'll do a lot of coaching and training. But also I have a management development team who are focused on the management population and making sure we're developing and coaching our managers to be effective.
Just one extra question about the circumstance of the business. This is a time, it has been for a long time, where general interest rates are very low. I mean, there was a time which probably most of our students are fortunately too young to be aware, when interest rates were much higher. But you're talking very positively about the business at a time when interest rates are very low. Can you kind of context?
Difficult time for many organisations in the financial services sector. We experienced hard times in the credit crunch of 2008, but we were able to diversify successfully where a lot of other businesses weren't. We were also funded in quite a unique way. You're using securitisation, which really helped to ensure the funding kept going when a lot of the other banks weren't lending money. But being able to develop other sides of the business has helped us weather the storm when the buy-to-let lending market slowed right down. In regards to interest rates, it's something that we keep really close eye on, and it does cause challenges. But I think because we're pitching ourselves as a specialist lender, there is always a market for.
Right, that's very interesting. So just to clarify, the word diversify means that if the core offers or streams of income, in effect, are kind of not producing particularly well, you have to think innovatively to say, okay, we're going to have to look at other products. Is that
That's it. So pretty much, if we rewind back to 2007, 2008, we were mainly just a buy-to-let lender at that point. So just had the one core market, one core product. But then we got into the loan servicing on behalf of other banks when they were experiencing a lot of difficulties, and that almost became a real opportunity.
Okay.
And it worked, and because we had a lot of people within the business that had transferable skills, we were able to move people around rather than go through costly redundancy exercises. We could move people into new areas of the business and use their talents.
That's great. Thank you. Right, so the next question is, could you give us a bit of a comment on what the company does particularly well, and what are the areas for future focus for development?
Sure. My own personal perspective on what I think we do well is that we're able to make really quite quick decisions with regard to a number of other companies I've worked to. We have an exec board that most are located in the same building, so decisions get turned around very rapidly, and that often leads to quick speed to market if we're offering new products. It means that things happen quickly, so projects really talking in a matter of months for new initiatives to run through the business.
That's very interesting. And in terms of the areas that you feel could be developed beneficially?
Yeah, at the moment we're going through a period of growth. Some of that has come through acquisition. So we've recently acquired a business called the Five Arrows Leasing Group, which is again a specialist lender in the asset finance market. And again, asset finance is something that's relatively new to us. We've taken on board the people, buildings, and everything, but they're located all around the country. So we've gone from a business that is predominantly based in Solihull, not far from here, with all of the key leaders all based in the same location. And now I think we're up at 19 sites with a much more geographically spread employee base. So the challenge for us is to be as nimble and as effective as we've always been, but having the additional challenge of not necessarily having people there in the room at the same time.
I mean, one thing I haven't asked you is what is the actual size of the company in terms of people?
We've got 1,300 at the moment, but again, I've been with the company 6 years, and we were at 500 then. So we've.
And they're based on quite a number of sites.
Yeah, the vast majority are based up in the West Midlands in Solihull, but we have probably about 400 or 500 that are scattered around the country in other sites.
Right, that's great. If we can move on to the other key focus of this exercise, which is leadership, and the question here is, how do you understand leadership? And could you tell us a bit about who's in charge of the company and how the accountability chain and the leadership styles work?
Sure. We're lucky in that we've got a very stable leadership team, and I think for a business to grow, to be strategic, to diversify, as we've spoken about, it helps to have a clear direction set from the top. So our CEO is a man called Nigel Tarrington, who's actually been with the business I think over 30 years, pretty much close, and a good 20 years of that has been as CEO. So he has seen the business grow and develop. He knows the markets very well. He's a key influencer with Parliament as well. He's, what he doesn't know about buy-to-let lending and banking probably isn't worth knowing. So again, very, very strong leadership, and I think that that tone from the top is evident. You see it. He's a very visible leader, and everyone knows him by name. So whether that's from employer briefings, doing long service awards, it's that kind of personal leadership that he's advocating.
Right. The students will be introduced to various leadership styles,
Mhm.
such as transformational leadership
Mhm.
and transactional leadership as a contrast. But which of these leaderships do you feel operates effectively in the company?
I think transformational leadership is something that works well. Um, I think it's probably diluted throughout the layers of the organisation. So certainly, the executive board and probably their direct reports will see a lot of strategic thinking. They'll be thinking in terms of, task, team, and individual. They manage to balance everything. Um, However, we do have, I mentioned the quick decision making is something we're very good at, but a lot of decisions are still referred upwards.
Yeah.
So probably the management, that middle management layer, are not as transformational perhaps as we need them to be for the future.
Right. And in terms of team leadership, actually
Yeah.
leading a team of people and keeping them motivated, could you comment about that?
Yes, I mean that's something that I think is a key strength at Paragon. We're clear on what the overall organisation's objectives are and what our plans are, and we expect each leader in the business, whether that's a manager or a team leader of a call centre, to translate that into meaningful objectives for their team, so that everyone has a clear direction. Everyone is coached and developed and motivated to achieve their goals. And we obviously have a lot of reward systems that will help support that as well.
Right. The other element, of course, in leadership is change. And it's known that you ask people, do they like change? And say, well, change is good. And then when you actually say, okay, well, we're going to change, then they're not always quite as keen. The business of change, when you're leading it, could you comment on how you bring a team on to look at life differently?
Absolutely. We see change all the time, and it's a bit of a cliche, but change is the only constant that you see, and you need to get equipped with it. It is one of our core competencies is being effective and able to adapt to changing environments and pressures that create. So it's something we expect of everyone, not just our managers and leaders, but be able to be resilient and to be able to cope with it. When we talk about change, for a lot of our employees, it might have meant trying different job roles, being seconded into new roles when we were looking to grow the business, and that's quite a big change at an individual level. For someone to go into a totally new role that they know nothing about, and that brings with it a lot of fear and uncertainty. But we try and encourage our managers to talk through the reasons for the change, give some context, try and turn it into a positive of what it will look like at the end, so that there is something for people to work through.
So you're saying that there is a culture of the expectation to sort of duck and weave within the company?
Yes, people are expected to adapt and change. I think the notion of having a single role forever is gone.
Right.
So that we're a much more flexible operation, really, where if you've got certain core skills and key behaviours, then you could work in a number of different ways for us. And I think a lot of our long-serving employees, and we've got a lot of them, have probably been through around 8 or 9 different job roles.
Right. I think it's worth saying, isn't it, for the students that the whole kind of money market has certainly been in a state of changing situations over the last few years, probably more than it was for a period before that.
Yes, absolutely.
And now with Brexit, makes it even more exciting, I think.
Exactly, yeah, there's such uncertainty in the market. The share price is fluctuating daily, and we're, just see how Brexit pans out.
Yeah, absolutely. This leads on to the next question, which is about communication. Could you comment a bit about how communication works within the company and maybe how the decision-making processes happen?
Yeah, sure. So we're actually going through a time at the moment of where our strategy is being defined for the next 5 years. So our executive board often meet up off-site for a couple of days to work through where the strategy needs to go on a 5-year plan. That is then cascaded down through the chain. So we, underneath the executive board, we have a senior management team that pretty much covers all of the divisional heads, and they would be able to receive a pack about the strategy. The expectation is they would then cascade that to their teams and make it relevant.
How does that tend to work? I mean, are there sort of like weekly team meetings perhaps?
Yeah, they're probably less frequent for the strategic stuff. So once a quarter we have the senior management teams, and that's the formal cascade. But each area would of course have more frequent meetings about the local issues that affect them.
And is the this kind of social media, internet type stuff?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, obviously, yeah, we've got our intranet called the Hub, where we post a lot of the group-wide notices that affect everyone. So when we have results and half-year results, we often have things like a video conversation with the CEO, much like we're talking now, about the half-year results that will then be broadcast to employees so they can see. Also in December, we have a whole group employee presentations where everyone gets together and the CEO and finance director talk to the whole group about the success and future challenges.
Right. Well, the last question, which is that leads on to very well, is actually what is the future vision? What are the external, internal influences and opportunities and threats that the company is looking towards?
Okay. Big question.
Yes.
So I think for us, our future vision is very much to continue to diversify. So we've got a strong foundation for our customers and for our employees. So the bank at the moment, we're happy that we've broken even early, but we're looking to develop new lines of specialist lending. So that we'll expect to see new products and services being launched under the bank name. We're also potentially, maybe looking for other acquisitions that complement our business again for future growth. I mentioned about the context and environment that affects that. Of course, the political situation, things like Brexit, and what's happening in the stock market is fundamental to us because it affects the funding that we're able to access. To make sure that we have the capital to then lend out to our customers. That's a huge.
I mean, presumably there are things like, one of the big discussions at the moment is about the contrast in the property market and how, the cost of property in London is sort of crazy, and there are other parts of the country where property doesn't have the same value at all, and it's possible the government will make legislation to balance that, isn't it?
Yeah, we're very interested in what's going on in the housing market, and huge changes. Also, changes in the rented sector as well. Which is going through phenomenal growth at the moment because the flip side is that a lot of people can't afford mortgages, so the rental market is prime. Which means there's a lot of landlords out there looking to buy properties as investments.
I mean, I think it's right, isn't it, that a few years ago the buy-to-let thing was kind of crazy, the thing, and then there was legislation to kind of control this a bit.
Yeah, it was previously an unregulated market. That is changing, and we're seeing a lot of competition now, particularly a few years ago there weren't that many players in the buy-to-let market, whereas now everyone seems to be offering buy-to-let mortgages, so it's definitely getting more competitive.
So because of those changes, how far ahead are sort of the plans usually made? I mean, is there a 2-year plan or a 5-year plan?
A 5-year, I'm sure it happens more longer term as well, but I am aware there's a 5-year plan that's that's detailed and that is communicated. I'm sure the CEO has got an eye for forward.
But I think at this moment the short plan is also pretty important and get renewed or changed.
Exactly, yes. And you always need to cope with the unexpected. We've seen that with the volatility in the markets in response to Brexit and the Trump election and everything.
And all these things. Yeah. Okay, Anne-Marie, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. That's very interesting. Could you give us a question for our students to consider in their studies?
Yes, certainly. I mean, in my role, I'm always interested to look at the leadership skills that we have, and using that longer term perspective. I feel that we've got the right mix of leadership skills at the moment, but I'm keen to think further ahead and think about what are the leadership skills we need for the future. What do the students think are the most pressing requirements of a leader in 5-10 year period? What are the things we should be thinking about as a business to equip our leaders with?
That's fantastic. That's a terrific question. And Anne-Marie, thank you very much indeed for taking part.
You're welcome. Thank you.